Quick one, nothing here is financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research or speak to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Enjoy the episode and like and subscribe.
Welcome back, everyone. Founder series. Nick from Unstoppable. Perps decks, margin decks, freaking just started out a while ago. And yeah, we love what Unstoppable are doing, just staying true to, what it is that, they said they were going to do at the start. Nick is kind of like one of the most hypercritical people towards himself I've ever met. But yeah, he's here, he's grinding it out, and it's always a pleasure, sir, to have you on. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Yeah. Just kind of reflecting upon what I started out saying is that, when you guys set out, in terms of Unstoppable and the mission, you always had this idea that you were going to do, A, B, and C. And I joked before we started that you've kind of like moved on to D and you've stuck to your guns. And I want to just kind of like go back and check in with you, like kind of like reflect upon, the journey thus far. I know it hasn't been easy for you guys because you've stuck to the mission that you started out with. So yeah, just give us a rundown and kind of like a little bit of insight into your journey up until now, from when you guys started this.
Yeah. So originally, like probably 1.5 years, 2 years ago, when we came up with the idea of Unstoppable, our main goal was to create a really crypto native alternative to centralized exchanges and make sure that people like ourselves, but also newcomers that are coming into the space, have a real alternative to these centralized things that tend to blow up sooner or later, like FTX, like BlockFi, like Celsius. And we wanted to offer them something that is true to the crypto native values and where we don't compromise on something like self-custody, for example, and make sure that people can use crypto in a way where it's simple to use, but also it's very safe and where they don't end up getting wrecked. And initially, we identified a few elements where we said, okay, these are the areas where the centralized exchanges still have a big advantage over the decentralized aspects, and where we really need to improve the offerings in the decentralized space. And some of those were, first of all, advanced order types that you can find on any centralized exchange, but that are not as prominent in the decentralized space. Then we also have the margin trading and the single-sided earn products that are usually available on more centralized venues, but are always a challenge to find a good, a solid, a safe way to do that on the decentralized side. And then, of course, the UX elements, and especially around the mobile usage, that is still something that, a lot of the decentralized apps and dApps simply don't offer, or offer in a pretty bad way, where the UX is still far, far behind something like Robinhood, for example. And these were the main avenues where we said, okay, this is something that really needs fixing, because if we want to onboard the next million or billion users, then we should offer them something that is based on the actual advantages of a blockchain, of self-custody, and of decentralized finance, and not just something that looks like it on the surface, but then under the hood is basically just a centralized version of whatever else. Then there is no point in not going with a centralized exchange or not going with a centralized database. Then why move to the blockchain at all? So this is kind of what we set out to do. And over the past year and a half now, we launched our spot DEX, advanced order types on top of existing Uniswap or Camelot liquidity. We now launched a few months ago our margin DEX, which allows leveraged trading as well as single-sided earning. And now, last week, we onboarded the first early access users from our closed early access group to the new version of our mobile app. Mobile app is gonna be a very cool thing. It's really a nice intuitive user interface that is backed by a very advanced smart contract wallet, and that will allow us to achieve these goals that we set out initially, that we make it so simple to use that anybody can participate in crypto and in DeFi in a self-custodial way without compromising on decentralization, on self-custody. Feedback has been really good so far. We are now starting to onboard more and more people from the waitlist that have signed up through our website or through the socials to the waitlist. And we are still polishing a few things and are adding a few more features, but things are going well, and I'm really excited about that.
So when I invited you onto the chat, I mean, viewers can't see this, or if you are listening, I named the podcast recording "Keeping Promises," and we kind of like had a little bit of a laugh about that. But I think you guys have kept your promises, and you know where you have deviated slightly, you've never really like deviated from the true mission of what it is that you set out to do. And that's one of the reasons why I've really enjoyed kind of like your perspective, and more importantly, kind of like your attitude to the way that you've approached this. I know that it hasn't been an easy journey for you guys. Obviously having kind of like a starting point in the bear market is never easy. And I know that, from a token perspective, and I don't really want to get into token price, but obviously the bear market didn't do you guys any favors. And I know that, with my experience in the space, and having seen how protocols kind of like deal with that kind of aspect, a lot of them get very disheartened, and they kind of call it quits, or they deviate completely from what they started out to do, whereas you guys have obviously stuck to your guns. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And something that's like that kind of like really gets up my nose is when people say, yeah, but there's no innovation in DeFi anymore. We're not seeing innovation. It's not really happening. And it's like, I'd like to just point something out to those people that are saying that. It's because you're too focused on meme coins and rubbish to actually take the time to actually like take note of what's really happening in the space with protocols like you guys. And so, yeah, well done on that. It's really cool that you kind of like just stuck it out, but more importantly, just taking those knocks, because I think this place that is crypto can really, really like beat you down, and really test your resolve. And you guys have bounced back really strongly, and it's really, really cool to see how you've developed these products. And I think it's great. So well done on that.
Thank you.
Excuse
I
the
appreciate it.
excuse the monologue, but I think it needs to be said more, like not just for you guys, but the guys that are actually like that give a shit about what they're doing. And yes, everyone wants to make money, everyone wants to be successful in whatever that might be, but I think that comes after the primary objective, and that's to focus on what it is that you're here to do. And I think you guys have done great. So tell us about, for me, what excites me a lot about this conversation today is like the mobile app, because that's something that we chatted about a while ago. And one of the big challenges was, how do you onboard without having to facilitate this whole kind of like seed phrase thing. And I know that you had quite an ingenious, like, in fact, a genius solution to that. And I wanted to just kind of go back to that original idea and see, where you were with that, and like if that had evolved to where you wanted it to, or whether you changed from that. And then we can get into the mobile app itself.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, like one of the big challenges that we see for onboarding people into self-custody is, okay, how do you secure that private key? How do you make sure people can have like a streamlined account creation or sign up process that is more similar to what they are used from Web 2, rather than what we see in a lot of the crypto native wallets, for example, where people are asked to write down 12 or 24 seed phrases or export private keys somewhere, put them on paper, or buy a hardware wallet and wait for that to be delivered. It's understandable how that flow is kind of a too high hurdle, too big of a barrier of entry for a lot of people, and then why they either take shortcuts like screenshotting your seed phrase, which in many cases then ends up leaking one way or another, and people get rugged, or where they simply abort the process and say, no, I'm going to stick with my FTXs of the world, and use the email address and password login there. So this was one of the challenges that we saw, and this also ties now a bit back into what you said, how we, like, one of the things I think I'm pretty proud of for what we have done as a team is we really didn't cut any corners. So even like, it's super easy to say, especially if you're getting pushed from competitors or community or frustration about how hard some of the things are to build, and that's probably the reason why a lot of them don't exist yet. It's very easy to feel that, oh, if we just cut a corner a little bit here and just say we keep that private key, or we make it like a multi-sig where we control enough so we can recover the key and something like that. It's very, very easy to see that as a potential solution and to go that way. But at the same time, I think it's a very slippery slope. And once you start making these kind of compromises, you're kind of giving up on the true ethos and the true values of DeFi and crypto. So that is something where we always followed a pretty hardline road, where we said, okay, self-custody, we are self-custody maxis. We're not making any compromises on that front. So we need to figure out a way how we can give actual real self-custody to people in a way that's easy to set up, and in a way where they won't end up losing their funds because they lost the private keys, or because they screenshotted the seed phrases and that photo leaked and somebody else took over. So luckily we found a solution, and a pretty good solution, I think. What we did is based on two things. Number one, we realized in modern phones, everybody has a built-in secure chip already, which is basically the same or very similar to a hardware wallet. So everybody is already running around with something of some type of a ledger, or whatever your favorite hardware wallet is, and they all run around with it in their pockets. So we just need to find a way of how to make that accessible to them, and make it accessible in the crypto context. And then the second thing was, okay, let's assume we can solve that part. Then how do we add like some of these additional features that people need, such as account recovery in a safe way? And there are already some good ideas out there. I think we also found some even better ideas in some areas. And the way we solved that is now basically we have an advanced smart contract wallet that is backing all our user accounts. And on the mobile app side of things, we really tap into the secure chip on the phone and the infrastructure that the phone provides, which allows it to securely store private keys and use that public key in our smart contract wallet as the account, basically. And that allows people to sign up in a very simple flow. Basically, they just need to choose a username, and then not even a password. It's just going to be your biometrics from your phone, so your Face ID or your fingerprint. That's actually going to create the account, create that key pair, securely stores the private key on your phone. It never leaves your phone. We never see it. We can't access your funds, even if we wanted to. And then in the background, we deploy that smart contract wallet that can verify the signatures from your biometrics on your phone now. And that combination of setup now allows us really to offer some pretty cool stuff. So it's kind of like a two-factor authentication part, where you need the biometrics of the person or the PIN code, depending on how you set up your phone. And at the same time, it allows us things to offer like social recovery, or like an inheritance setup is something we've built into the smart contract wallet, for example. So if you completely lose your phone or your access, or God forbid something happens to you, then there's always a way to fall back and to access your funds again, whether it's through you or through a trusted person. Yeah, and then we do have some more features on top of that, but I think it's better to go into those in another call when they are live and when people can actually try it.
So just I have one question around obviously the custody side of it. So like I keep thinking, well, what happens, if I lose my phone, or it gets stolen, or whatever the case is? Then obviously the authentication vehicle is no longer. How do you then access that information? Is there still a seed that can be accessed?
So what we did here is we basically have a multi-layered setup, and it depends on how exactly you want to set up. So we give some very sensible and good defaults for people that are new. But if you are experienced and you want to set up in a specific way, then you have all the options. So the first layer is your phone itself and the way how it handles these key pairs. You have the option on your phone to sync that with your iCloud or Google account, for example, if you want to do that. So then there exists a backup, and if you lose your phone, or if your phone breaks and you buy a new phone and you sign in with that same iCloud or Google account on that phone, it automatically will make the passkeys available again, and you can basically just install the app and continue using it as is. We tried that and it works actually really, really well. If you don't want to do that, or you don't have it set up in that way, then we fall back on that smart contract layer level. And on that front, we have 3 major layers that you can use to recover your account or your access. The first one is you can always define an additional second account that will have always access to that smart contract and all the funds in it at all times. So that's basically what we call an owner or admin. So a crypto native setup would be that you just use your hardware wallet and set that up as the backup. And then even if you lose your phone, or even if the Unstoppable app disappears and the Unstoppable completely disappears tomorrow, you can always interact directly with the smart contract through your hardware wallet and then recover all funds there. If you don't want to do that, or don't have that, then there is an additional layer. As I said, we have this inheritance or inactivity setup. So it's similar to the owner setup, but it has a higher level of security and a bit less usage friendliness, I guess, in that sense. So you can, for example, say, okay, here's my hardware wallet, or here's my friend's wallet. And if I don't use my smart contract wallet for 180 days or 90 days or whatever you want to set it to, then that other wallet can assume ownership of the smart contract and can have access to all funds. So that's a pretty cool way how, as long as you use your wallet and as long as you have access to your phone, that other account has exactly 0 permissions to do anything with the funds. But if you lose it and the delay that you set passes, then at that point, that other account can assume ownership of your account, of your smart contract wallet, and recover all the funds that are in it. And then the third layer that we put in place is a social recovery setup, where it's pretty similar to a multi-sig setup. So you can define guardians. So let's say you set up 5 friends of yours, and then you define a signature threshold, and you say, okay, if at least 3 of these 5 accounts that I set up as guardians agree that a new owner should be set, then a new owner can be set, again, after a certain delay. So in case it's a malicious attempt, you always have time to intervene and to stop it. But yeah, if 3 out of the 5 agree that a new owner of your account should be set, then they can reset the owner account and you can assume access ownership of your account through that way again. So yeah, we put a lot of effort into that to make a really multi-layered setup there that should hopefully have enough layers now that as long as there's a somewhat sensible setup in place here, that nobody will lose access to their funds like you can easily on a traditional self-custody setup. And yeah, where the centralized versions used to have a big advantage, because you can somehow contact customer service and go through some process to restore it. But now I think we've, yeah, through the setup we have now on the smart contract wallet side, we really have at least a comparable, in many cases, in my opinion, an even better setup in place, because it is permissionless and it is decentralized. So you don't require that centralized customer service to help you recover your account. But if you set it up once correctly, then you will always have a fallback to never lose access to your funds.
Wow. So you guys have honestly like thought of pretty much everything, like multiple multiple avenues explored and discussed and executed on. That's so cool, man. I didn't actually realize that you had done stuff to this extent. I'm glad I asked the question. So yeah, well done again. So is there, I mean, just from the mobile app side of it at the moment, I know it's something that you guys have spoken about quite a bit on Twitter, and it's, I mean, it's out there. You've made some bold statements around it. Just tell us a little bit about, you know, the mobile app itself, its functionality, and what you can and can't do on it, and you know what what you have on your list of things that that are still to come for the mobile app itself.
Mm-hmm. So the overarching goal of the mobile app is really to make access to crypto and DeFi simple. So good UX and simple flows and things like that have been the main focus for now. And at some point, we also realized, okay, we are not going to be able to start with the simplest version of it initially, just because, yeah, the current our current community, our current user group, and the most likely the user group we are going to onboard first is still coming from that crypto native, or at least that centralized exchange level. So these are people who have some experience with crypto or with financial stuff, with blockchains and all of that, and they want a certain level of detail in the features that we offer. So what we decided to do is now to have that app that allows a lot of the advanced features, but in a really good UX flow. And then at a later stage, we are going to go down to that super simple version where we basically cut out everything. And yeah, I always jokingly say the goal is we want to have this app with 2 buttons in it. One is invest and one is earn. And that is going to be the level that any grandma can use, basically.
Yeah.
But the current version, yeah, so we have that super simple sign up, as I said. Another thing that we built into that right now is account abstraction. I forgot about that part to mention. But basically, if you set up an account with us, you don't have to worry about gas fees or having ETH in your wallet or anything like that. All of that is handled by default. The basic feature is going to be a portfolio where you can basically just buy crypto assets and put together your crypto portfolio. So again, it's based on existing DeFi liquidity. We integrate into aggregators and existing Uni and Camelot pools and others to offer you at the current level Arbitrum assets, but we plan to go beyond that soon. But yeah, so putting together a portfolio, basically spot buying crypto assets and spot trading them. There's going to be what we call the simple buy version, which is just a swap. So you buy it now, you buy it instantly. We also have the 2 advanced features. So you can have recurring buys, again, very simple to set up, which is like a dollar cost averaging strategy that will help you to build a position over time. And then the third one is going to be the limit orders. So if you want to buy a certain asset at a discounted price, then you can set up these limit orders that are going to be automatically filled by our keepers if price moves to that level where we can get you that asset at the price you want it at. That's the one feature, the one main side of things. Then the second part is going to be the earn feature, where you can earn interest single-sided without impermanent loss on your assets. We're gonna primarily focus on the big ones there, but gonna list more smaller ones later, and at some level maybe also integrate external yield sources. For now, this is basically the LPing side of our margin DEX infrastructure. And then the margin trading side is going to be, again, a bit more an advanced feature, but I think for the current user group, it's going to be interesting. This is the one that's not quite live yet for the beta testers. I'm still polishing the UIs there and getting the flows properly set up. So I'm happy with the UX part of it. But then you will be able to also do leverage trades in the app. We also, we started with a very simple version, but there is something we call the alpha room in the app where you can interact with other app users. Initially, it's going to be a very simple version where it's more like a chat box or a troll box where you can just discuss some trading ideas, reference some of the assets that are available, and pretty soon you will also be able to share your trades there and copy other people's trades that were shared. We have some bigger plans for that in the future, but at the moment it's not our primary focus. We still want to get some of the other elements in place there first. And outside of that, we also, of course, have basic features like explore and watch list. So if you are interested in any crypto asset and want to keep an eye on it, we will give you all the information about it that you need. And then a simple way to buy it if you want to buy it at some point. Also, just general watch list. Have your favorites or tokens that you want to keep an eye on. On that front, we are hopefully soon going to have some notifications and alert settings as well. So if there's either large movements or certain prices be hit, that you will get an easy notification on your phone, so you can take a closer look and then decide if it's time to buy the dip. So these are the things that are live or are going to be live pretty soon. And then outside of that, there is still the integration or direct integration with on and off ramps and crypto credit cards that we are working on. That is the part that ties into the regulated side of things, and where it can be a bit frustrating to work through the heaps of lawyers and regulations and changes in regulations. And especially in the EU, there were some recent changes on some things that are not really nice. Basically, from my perspective, it looks like they are trying to capture the regulatory space by the existing regulations, especially around banking licenses and EMI licenses. So instead of allowing some innovation there, they have kind of limited what is possible to do with licenses that are below banking license or EMI license, which is a pity. It's understandable from their point of view, I guess. They want to keep the control under the banks, and they also don't want any innovation on the digital asset side when it comes to digital euro or digital USDs. If you have an EMI license, you can do that, but you must under no circumstances build a better version than the shitty off-chain version of it. So built-in yield or something like that is not allowed, which is a pity. But that's something we are still working around, and where we are now also looking into integrating initially with third parties that offer some of that, so that we can just get some version of it into the products early, while we are still fighting with the regulators there to figure out how exactly we can build the version that we actually want and that we actually want to offer to our users. But that is to some extent out of our hands, how fast that will go, and which is why we now are looking to partners there and integrating third-party solutions for now as well.
I mean, I can't help but want to take this discussion a little bit to to the left, a little bit off piece here. So I'm gonna do it. Surely that is no different to what it is that we've seen in the US over the last couple of years, or the last 3 years, in terms of the way that, particularly this current administration has managed, in inverted commas, the whole crypto landscape, to the extent that a lot of US citizens that are crypto native, and more importantly founders, are essentially packing up their bags and are leaving reluctantly, because they are obviously met with the same kind of resistance. And I don't believe that the US is an isolated entity to particularly Europe. I think Europe, to a certain extent, is always going to land up towing the line, just because that's the way it works, and it's not a conspiracy. That's just the way it works. And surely there's a discussion that needs to be had around crypto founders like yourselves who are in this situation. Is it an option to say, well, I need to actually pack up and leave and go somewhere else where I can actually do this kind of thing? Or is it just a continuous battle that you need to fight and say, okay, well, I'm going to compromise, and ultimately you're going to land up being in a situation where, until they change, you're going to have to do exactly what it is that they tell you. So I'm just curious, like, how do you, I'm sure this is something that you've thought about probably forever and a day. How do you address that, on a day-to-day basis, especially when you are this headstrong about obviously building something that you want to go out there and make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things you mentioned. So the first one is, like, at least for the EU, it is the way the regulation works there is that if you offer your products to EU citizens, then you fall under their regulation. So packing up your bags and leaving with the setup or entity is not a solution to it all.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you want to work on that regulated side and want to offer it to EU users, then it's not a solution to just go to an offshore jurisdiction and do it from there, unfortunately. Then the other thing is, I mean, to some extent, I get where the regulators are coming from. They can only lose if they put into place a too loose regulation, and too many scams go through and people lose too much money. Then they lost, right? So from a regulator's perspective, it will always be better for them to go on the hard end of the spectrum and just forbid everything. That way they are safe and they got their own assets covered. I feel the part that is getting lost in that is the innovation and adopting new technologies, allowing startups and founders and newcomers, like with new ideas, to build something that's actually better than the established version of it. And that's where it's really tough in the current regulatory environment to argue that regulators are having a sensible take on innovation and on allowing at least the good actors that are trying to innovate. One potential solution for that would be, like, I mean, it has been discussed before, like some sort of a sandbox environment where you can sign up with these guys and then say, okay, for the first 3 years or 5 years, you're kind of in a sandbox environment and you're not allowed to do illegal stuff, but you're allowed to do some stuff that is not currently covered by whatever license you might need if you were to work in the Web2 side or in the TradFi side more. And then over time, together with the regulators, you figure out, okay, this is how the eventual business model and the eventual tech actually looks like and works. And then you can, in a dialogue, figure out, okay, does it make sense to run this under any existing licenses or regulation, or is it something that requires a new type of regulation or license? This is what I would like to see. I don't have the impression that it is what we are gonna get to see. So yeah, for now we will have to play by their rules, as long as we have to integrate with that side of things. So yeah, there is still solutions by being creative, thinking out of the box, and also exploring the exact type of regulations. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's not really based on how do I say this nicely? Not necessarily based on a lot of common sense. And if you only pick a certain type of setup with multiple entities set up in whatever way, then suddenly it becomes legal. It becomes legal. What would be illegal or not according to regulation if you would just outright say this is what I'm doing and this is what I want to do. That's just how the space works, and I guess how lawyers and regulators also earn some of their their keep. So yeah, we are exploring what options are out there to create good solutions that do not make too big of a compromise. But for now, yeah, we also have to agree or accept that as long as we have to tap into the TradFi system, into the fiat system, we will have to play by their rules to some extent.
Yeah, because then essentially what happens is that you kind of like, okay, you resign yourself to the fact that you don't want to deal with this level of jumping through hoops, and then essentially you're just giving the responsibility back to the central exchanges to do that for you, and then you also become reliant on central exchanges to actually get those funds into the on-chain environment, and then you hope that people come and use your product after the fact, which is not, it's kind of like a contradiction in terms. So I get it, there's a game that needs to be played. Clearly it's frustrating, but that's just the way it is. And we know that in order for this whole thing to work, ultimately there needs to be regulatory insights, and more importantly regulatory clarity, I suppose, around the way that you guys need to do things, and everyone needs to know where they stand. But you're right, they can't win. Like from a banking perspective and the rest of it, they're going to have to come to the party at some point in time. There's no stopping this thing. So yeah, in terms of your offering around the unstoppable, that process at the moment, like, is it possible to, because I know that you actually ran quite a cool campaign. I really liked campaign itself on Twitter, where you actually mentioned, I'm just bringing it up now because I like the wording that you guys used. Yeah, so it's like self-repaying credit cards are coming soon. Interest earned on your assets pays off your debt automatically. Full suite or non-full suite. I like that. I like this kind of, like, I'm colorblind, so I'm not sure whether it's red or pink, but it's pretty damn cool. So just kind of like give us the rundown on that product itself, seeing as though we are talking about the card and traditional finance.
Yeah, I mean, this again stems kind of from our look at things and how we want to use crypto and DeFi ourselves in the real world. So one of the probably biggest innovations in DeFi over the past years has been Alchemix, in my opinion. Their self-repaying loan features is something that's really very innovative and something that hasn't existed, and as far as I know, doesn't exist still on the TradFi side of things. And it's something that can be done very easily on the on-chain side of things, since we can program and we can program money. So as soon as you have some type of yield-bearing asset, there is potentially a way how you can take out the loan against that initially and then have that yield pay off the loan. And if you're a crypto native like us, then whenever you do have to sell some of your precious ETH or Bitcoin or meme coins to pay for rent or coffee or whatever in the real world, then it's always a bit painful. So having a way where you would automatically not sell your assets, but simply use a yield-bearing version of that and pay with a loan against that, that is kind of what we want to use ourselves and what we feel is a very cool thing that we also want to bring to more and more users. So that's it's something that we find very interesting, and we have done quite a bit of background work on. It's not quite ready yet to go live. As I said, we also still working on that credit card integration or crypto credit card integration. But as soon as that's sorted, then we can do the next step on that front as well. And yeah, there we're gonna have some pretty cool things of how you can configure that, what type of loan you're gonna be using to pay off or pay off the usage of your credit card. Yeah, it will allow us to do some advanced features. So for example, in some jurisdictions, you will have to put some money aside for taxes whenever you do sell some crypto. But in other jurisdictions, or taking out a loan, for example, might not fall under that at that moment. So there's going to be some interesting things we can do on that front, and that we are looking forward to offer to our users. And yeah, something that's very unique, I think, and something that especially the people that are not too familiar with crypto and DeFi and then have not heard of something like Alchemix yet, that they will hopefully find very interesting as well. And yeah, at least have that as a reason to try out the whole crypto and self-custody thing. And then hopefully along that line, we can convert them to actual self-custody maxis as well, and get them to participate in this new world.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's exactly what's needed. So yeah, good luck on that. I wanted to also chat about in terms of like, obviously with any protocol that is in the DeFi space, like partnerships are important because it's just the nature of the beast. And you have to go out there and you've got to like get people that share the same vision and the same ideas, on board. I know that you mentioned partnerships. Tell us a bit about what you guys have been up to and, what the mission is on that side of things.
Yeah. So over the past weeks, we listed quite a few new markets on the Margin Dex, on our Margin Dex, the desktop version of it. On that front, we did some co-marketing with some of the projects. I was also surprised that some of the projects were not very interested in doing a lot of co-marketing. Some also couldn't, again, due to their personal regulatory challenges in the space. But yeah, in the coming weeks, we will actually launch what's almost the second version of the Margin Dex. We call it the experimental setup, or the degen version of it. And or maybe one step back. So to list a new market on our Margin Dex, we have two main requirements. Number one is it needs to have deep liquidity in an existing market like Uniswap, or a deep Uniswap pool, for example. And then number two, it needs an oracle, a reliable oracle. And so far we are using the Chainlink oracles on that side of things. Now there's a lot of tokens out there that might not have that deep of liquidity, or might not have an Chainlink oracle price, or not yet at least. So with our degen setup, we are gonna basically try how well the system we have built performs under these conditions, and give the proper degens in the space some a new playground to play around a bit with some of these low liquidity tokens and trade them on leverage, or at least short them on low leverage. So in that context, yeah, we are going through the final internal testing on that right now. And then over the coming weeks, we will probably launch that. On that front, we will then be able to list some of the tokens and markets that are a lot smaller, and are also some of the very crypto native teams and projects. So we are already in contact with some of them, and we'll definitely have some more co-marketing, and also some hopefully interesting trading competitions or other types of campaigns with these projects. And then in the next step, when we bring that to the mobile app as well, this will also allow us to do some hopefully interesting campaigns on that front. We're still working out some of the gamification and engagement mechanics on the mobile app, But as soon as that's in place, then we have some have planned some interesting campaigns, not just around tokens and project, but also about like some educational aspects again, where we feel there's a big need, and two, if we can find a good mechanic and a good engaging way to present it to users and to allow users to really do something that is worth the time, then that is interesting for the users, and that of course has to be first and foremost. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. But then it will also allow us to have some interesting cooperations and partnerships with some of the existing projects in the space that might qualify for being highlighted in such a way.
You guys haven't done like a whole points thing to the extent that others have you? I don't recall.
No.
Like this.
No.
No. Is there a particular reason around that? I know that there's kind of like maybe a little bit of a philosophical reason, but I'm just curious why you guys never approached that kind of strategy.
Yeah, well, so the entire points meta, I mean, for some reason it took off
Yeah.
a lot more than you would expect, because if you look at it on paper, it's basically kind of like an airdrop or engagement campaign like that, except initially people don't know if they ever get anything for it or what they would get for it. And that kind of seems like a bit of a, I don't want to say dishonest, but a bit of a weird outset in the beginning. But users seem to love it. Users seem to like it. I mean, for me, I found it a bit strange in the beginning, and that's the main reason why we didn't really go with that and didn't try to jump on that kind of meta narrative. But users do seem to like it, and of course, from product perspective, or well, then one step back. If you just throw points into something just so you have a points program, I'm not a fan of that. If you want to incentivize something, then it should always be something that is providing some value to the user and is providing some value to the protocol. I'm not a fan of these mercenary setups where people just come and farm something to the death and then disappear again. That's you can fake volume, you can fake usage over a limited amount of time through something like that, and make your stats look good. But at the end of the day, it will only mask that you're lacking a proper business model, or that your product is not finding the product market fit it should. So I've always been careful and hesitant about doing something like that, because it makes our job a lot harder as well. If you have suddenly 1,000 users and you think, yeah, we're doing great and the app is great and everything is perfect and we don't need to change anything, and we also don't need to add any more features because everybody is happy, then that's not a good way to be, or not a good point to be as a founder, as a team, as a product. But now, that being said, like when you have a really good product and you want to use some type of incentives or incentivization and gamification, especially, to make users explore the product more and to get to know the different aspects of it, and try some things that they might not have initially tried themselves, but that they then find some value in, that I think is a different aspect. And whether that's then wrapped into some type of a points program itself or into a direct type of a campaign. I mean, there's the Galaxy and what's the other one called? Tide campaigns out there that give you a direct claim on some type of price or something. Whether you use something like that or whether you use a points program, in this context, I think it's perfectly valid, as long as it provides value to the user and provides value to the protocol, and is not a way to just boost your statistics or your KPIs and give yourself a pat on the back of how well you're doing when you're actually not.
Yeah, we know all about that from a content creation perspective. You know, you can either do the real thing or you can fake it, and unfortunately a lot of people do. And I think you obviously are speaking to that, and I'm really interested to see how your mission goes with, the partnerships and kind of like the variations around, the offering that you guys are doing. We'd love to be a part of a referral program with you guys. I know that I've asked it of you in the past before, but I know that you tend to get things right before you throw them out there. So we'll patiently wait for that. I know that it is on your
It's
long
coming.
list
Yes.
of things. Yeah, on your long list of things to do. I think the final question that I have, for our chat this morning is like, why should I come and use Unstoppable as opposed to any of the other dexes? What is it about Unstoppable that you think is worthy above everybody else?
Well, there's it depends on who you are, I think. If you're like a hardcore crypto native, then you already know all the different dexes and you know which one to use for which use case and stuff like this. And that's also why initially we said we are not trying to build something that's already out there and just build a forked version of GMX or a forked version of Uniswap and just add a sprinkle of another fee there and some type of thing that nobody needs or wants somewhere else. We always said, okay, if we want to build something and if you spend our time building something, then it needs to be something that actually adds a lot of value to the space. Of course, you won't ever like build something that works for every user all the time. That doesn't exist, I think. If you're a crypto native though, then you hopefully care a lot about the crypto native values like self-custody, like decentralization, like not cutting corners. And that's why you should take a look at what we do. And come join our socials, our Discord, have some discussions there. We always love to talk tech and deep stuff. If you are more what we call a comfy degen, so you're interested in the shitcoins and the margin trading and the earning and all of that, but you don't necessarily want to go through the hassle of setting up 20 accounts on 20 different chains and bridging ETH for gas or whatever else the flavor of the day is, then you definitely should take a look at what we do, because we have a very strong focus on improving the UX of crypto and making it simpler, offering the features that you need, but making them really easy and simple to use. So that's something you should really look into and at least give it a try. And then also give us some feedback if we are not there yet. And if there's something missing, we are always very open to constructive criticism and are always looking forward to get some good feedback. And then if you care about crypto in general, and you want to help onboard the next million or billion users, then you should definitely get on the waitlist of our mobile app and check that out, because that I think really has the potential to help with that mission, and you can be a part of it. And as you mentioned, both the referral program, but also the way we are going to set up how you can create accounts for people that are for now normies and are not in the self-custodial world yet. We will have a very cool way to set up wallets for your family and friends, set up accounts for the mobile app, where you, for example, are one of these fallbacks that can help secure and recover the funds as needed that we talked about earlier. And we will have a very cool way to do that. So if you want to make crypto grow, and if you believe that this is the way how everybody should be in control of their money and their finances, then that's definitely a reason for you to check out Unstoppable as well. And we spent quite some time a while ago trying to nail down what our core message and core value is that we want to portray and want to represent. And we ended up on our slogan, your money, your rules. And if you believe in that, then definitely come by and check out what we do.
Cool. Yeah, sound principles. As a DeFi maxi, I obviously approve. I think those are good reasons, by the way. It's not about wanting to be the biggest or the fastest. It's about, sticking to the fundamentals of, what DeFi should be about and is about, despite all the noise. which we've had way too much of in the last 12 months. It's nice to see DeFi catching a bid at the moment. For those of you who are living under a rock, DeFi is getting a bid, and it's great to see, kind of like the OGs from a token and a price perspective, see a little bit of, positive move in the markets. And yeah, hopefully it continues, and hopefully we do have, a DeFi season, and, protocols like you guys can obviously then get to shine. I'm really interested to see how your degen kind of side of things works out, especially from a liquidity perspective. That's always going to be a challenge. So hopefully the partnerships that you are setting up at the moment will assist in that process. I know you haven't shared any of that information. You've been purposefully secretive about it, and I'll respect it, but I see what you're doing, sir, and I'm looking forward to participating in that. Yeah, Nick, thanks for taking the time and sharing your thoughts. And yeah, it's been really cool to see you guys grow over the last 12 months, and long may it continue. And yeah, thanks for actually giving a shit about the space. It's very obvious. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And you guys have clearly been doing so. Well done on that as well. And yeah, till next time, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, and to anyone listening or watching, please like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. All the best.
All right, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on for next time. See ya.